There is a truth buried deep within Buddhist thought, quiet, almost effortless, that once you truly grasp it, makes the world feel breathable again. Not because your struggles vanish overnight, but because you stop viewing life through the same cracked lens that distorted it in the first place. If you have grown numb to your own days, if everything feels like a loop you cannot escape, if you have reached goals that once felt impossible and still felt hollow inside, then what follows is meant for you. You call it drive. But what if it is actually a hunger that never gets full? You call it becoming better. But what if you have quietly trained yourself to reject wherever you are right now? Buddhism does not teach that people suffer because life is meaningless. It teaches that people suffer because they have drifted away from life itself. In what follows, you will explore why everyday moments lose their glow, why the future keeps robbing you of your peace, and the ancient insight that can help you fall genuinely, deeply in love with your existence in a way most people never allow themselves to. 1. The hidden agreement you made with yourself. What if the reason you struggle to embrace your life has nothing to do with what your life lacks, and everything to do with a silent deal you struck with yourself long ago? Most of us carry this invisible agreement without ever noticing it. It hides behind ambition, behind self-improvement, behind hope. It speaks in a low, persistent voice. I'll let myself rest once I make it. Once the wound heals. Once someone truly gets me. Once the fear finally fades. And while the mind sits at that imaginary finish line, life keeps moving without us. A still evening passes. Someone we love gets older. A perfect moment appears and disappears without us ever really being there for it. The real tragedy is not pain. The real tragedy is postponing aliveness. There is a teaching that cuts right to the heart of this. The door was never locked. Only your conditions were. Sit with that for a moment. How many years have you spent standing in the hallway of your own life, refusing to walk in because it did not look exactly the way you imagined? Picture a traveler who prepares every day for a grand banquet. He polishes his cup year after year, waiting until he feels worthy enough to sit at the table. He waits for the perfect timing. He waits until he is ready. Only at the end of his journey does he realize the feast had been laid out all around him the entire time. So many people live this exact story, endlessly preparing to begin instead of simply beginning. Right now, wherever you are, look around. Notice 3 plain, unremarkable objects. A chair, a mug, a window with light coming through it. Now imagine you will never see them again. Feel what shifts inside you. Suddenly the ordinary becomes something else entirely. The overlooked becomes precious. The life you thought was insufficient starts showing you quiet pockets of beauty that were always there, hidden behind your expectations. This is one of Buddhism's most powerful realizations. People do not lose their love for life. They lose their ability to see the life that is already present. So ask yourself honestly, what have you been waiting for before allowing yourself peace? Which unmet condition is quietly running your happiness? And if that condition never arrives, would this life still be worth loving? 2. The trap of living in tomorrow. Why does every milestone lose its power so quickly? The answer is uncomfortable, because it challenges something most of us have accepted without question, that fulfillment is always slightly ahead of us. One more success, one more relationship, one more transformation, one more improved version of ourselves. The mind keeps itself alive by making promises. Just a little further, it whispers, and for a moment, we believe it. Then the goal arrives. The dream becomes real, and before long, that once electric thing becomes background noise, and the mind is already pointing at the next horizon. This is not failure. This is the engine of craving. Buddhism reminds us that suffering often begins when we mistake the next destination for salvation. The mind loves tomorrow because tomorrow never asks it to face today. That is why so many people spend years running toward their life while feeling oddly disconnected from it. As one reflection puts it, tomorrow is the favorite hiding place of an unhappy mind. Think back 5 years. There was something you desperately wanted. More money, more freedom, more confidence, more recognition. Remember how urgent it felt. Now ask yourself, how long did the satisfaction last once you got it? How quickly did gratitude fade into expectation? This is a pattern most people never catch. It is like walking towards sunlight across a valley. No matter how far you travel, the light always seems just a little further away. The destination keeps shifting because the problem was never the distance. The problem was believing peace lived somewhere else. The future is a useful compass, but it becomes a cage when it replaces living. The deepest realization is not that goals or pointless goals can show you direction. The realization is that fulfillment cannot be put on hold until they are achieved, because a life spent worshipping what is next quietly abandons what is now. What future are you currently bowing to? What promise keeps you in motion? And what if the peace you have been chasing has never been waiting at the end, but has been walking beside you all along, waiting for you to notice it? 3. The energy we waste fighting what already happened. Why do two people face the same event and emerge entirely different? One person loses their job and finds an unexpected door opening. Another carries bitterness for years over the same loss. One person grows through heartbreak, another becomes sealed inside it. The circumstance is similar. The suffering is not. This is one of the most illuminating truths in Buddhist thought. Suffering is rarely caused by what happens to us. It is caused by our ongoing quarrel with what has already happened. Rain falls. One person gets wet and keeps walking. Another spends the entire day furious that it rained. Reality did not harm either of them. Resistance did. The mind has a stubborn habit of arguing with facts. It replays the same sentence, "This should not have happened." But reality does not move. The only thing being worn down is the person making the argument. A teaching that deserves to be carried everywhere. Pain enters through life. Suffering enters through refusal. So much of human exhaustion comes from trying to negotiate with things that have already settled into the past. The moment has spoken. Yet the mind keeps filing appeals. Imagine a river moving through a landscape. It does not argue with the rocks. It does not demand the mountain reposition itself. It simply flows around what is there and continues forward. Only humans try to reshape mountains with frustration. Only humans spend years in conflict with realities that have already taken root. Right now, bring to mind something you cannot change: a loss, a disappointment, a mistake, a situation you wish were different. For one slow breath, stop mentally correcting it. Do not approve of it. Do not condemn it. Simply let it exist. Notice what sits beneath the resistance. There is often a stillness there, a quiet space that has been waiting patiently beneath all the arguing. Ask yourself, what reality are you currently at war with? What would remain if the argument dissolved? And how much of your life force is being spent fighting facts instead of inhabiting the life that is still here? Peace begins where the argument ends. 4. The exhaustion of trying to control everything. What if your greatest source of stress is not uncertainty itself, but your desperate need to eliminate it? Most people operate on the assumption that control creates safety. So they try to predict every outcome, prevent every mistake, secure every corner of the future. They believe that if they can just manage life carefully enough, calm will finally arrive. But something strange happens the tighter they grip, the more anxious they become. Because anxiety is rarely born from uncertainty. It is born from the impossible mission of trying to erase it. Life was never built to be controlled. It was built to be engaged with. A teaching worth returning to. A clenched fist cannot receive. How many moments have been spent trying to force a result? Trying to make someone understand you? Trying to guarantee success? Trying to ensure that nothing painful ever finds you again? Beneath every attempt to manage life lies a hidden fear, the fear of loss, of disappointment, of not being enough if things fall differently than planned. But control is often just fear dressed in the clothes of responsibility. Imagine holding water in your open palm. The harder you squeeze, the faster it escapes between your fingers. What you are trying to preserve is lost because of the pressure itself. People do this with their lives constantly. They hold relationships so tightly that connection fades. They grip success so firmly that joy slips away. They demand such certainty that peace becomes impossible. The problem is not caring. The problem is believing that caring requires strangling what you love. Close your hand in your mind. Feel the tension. Feel the effort of keeping it clenched. Now slowly open it. Notice the ease that enters. Notice the spaciousness. Notice the relief. Freedom often arrives through exactly that doorway, not by controlling more, but by releasing the compulsion to control everything. By trusting that life can still be full and meaningful, even when it does not follow your exact instructions. What are you trying to control that cannot truly be controlled? What fear hides beneath that effort? And if you loosened your grip slightly, would life become more dangerous, or would it finally become lighter? Sometimes peace does not begin by gaining control. It begins by discovering you never needed nearly as much of it as you thought. 5. The forgotten art of moving with life. If letting go is not giving up, then what is it? Most people hear the word surrender and immediately imagine defeat, lowering the bar, accepting mediocrity, settling for a life that falls short of what it could be. But genuine surrender is something else entirely. Defeat says, nothing matters anymore. Flow says, everything matters, and I'm done fighting reality to prove it. One shuts the heart. The other opens it. Many people spend years avoiding this realization. They exhaust themselves trying to bend life into shapes it refuses to take. They push against closed doors, replay old pain, demand answers from seasons of life that have not finished unfolding yet. And then they wonder why they are so tired. There is wisdom in an old teaching. The strongest tree bends before the storm. Think of bamboo standing in a hurricane. Massive, rigid trees snap under that pressure. But bamboo survives not because it is stronger than the storm, but because it knows when not to resist. There is something profound hidden in that image. Many of life's greatest gifts arrive wearing the disguise of unwanted circumstances. A delay teaches patience. A loss deepens appreciation. A failure opens doors that success would have kept closed. But when all our energy goes into resisting the experience, we miss the lesson it was carrying for us. Bring your attention to your own breathing for a moment. The inhale arrives on its own, you do not force it. The exhale releases on its own, you do not chase it. Life already knows how to flow. Nature already knows the rhythm. Only the human mind insists that every single moment must be controlled. The deeper truth is that peace tends to arrive when the struggle softens. Not because problems disappear, but because the war against this moment ends. This is not passivity. This is cooperation with reality. This is trusting that life can still teach, guide, and transform you, even when it refuses to follow your preferred script. Where are you forcing life right now? What would it feel like to work with it instead of against it? And are you resisting a lesson that has been quietly, patiently waiting for you to receive it? Sometimes the path forward becomes visible the moment you stop pulling against it. 6. When wonder disappears, why does a child find magic in a beam of light across a wall, while an adult can walk through an entire day surrounded by beauty and register almost none of it? A child can lose 10 minutes in a falling leaf, in the sound of rain, in a passing cloud. Yet an adult can move through a full day in a kind of perceptual fog, later unable to remember what any of it felt like. What changed? Not the world. Attention did. Many people believe that joy comes from having more success, more status, more experiences. But one of the deepest insights available to us is this: meaning is not built from possessions. It is built from presence. Attention is what transforms an ordinary moment into a living, breathing experience. When attention leaves the present, life slowly turns colorless. The morning coffee becomes mechanical. The familiar face becomes wallpaper. The evening sky becomes something you drive past, and then people wonder why their lives feel hollow. There is a reflection worth sitting with. Wonder disappears when familiarity replaces presence. The problem is not that beauty left. The problem is that habit buried it. Imagine a diamond covered in years of dust. To someone who only sees the surface, it looks like a common stone. But the diamond never lost its value. It was simply no longer being seen. Life works this way constantly. The things we once prayed for become the things we stop noticing. Health feels ordinary until illness arrives. Time with those we love feels unremarkable until separation comes. Simple mornings feel invisible until they can no longer be experienced. This is how wonder quietly dies, not through loss, but through unawareness. Right now, imagine holding a warm cup of tea. Feel its heat, notice its weight, experience it as though you have never touched anything like it before. When attention returns fully, something extraordinary happens. Life begins returning too. Not because anything changed on the outside, because something woke up on the inside. The ordinary starts revealing hidden depths. The familiar becomes alive again. The world you thought had gone grey begins to feel quietly sacred. When did you last truly notice life? What beauty have you normalized? How much of your day is actually lived versus simply passed through? Perhaps the life you are searching for is already here, hidden inside the moments you have stopped seeing. 7. Why success cannot fill the deepest emptiness. Why do so many accomplished people still feel an ache they cannot name? This question has followed humanity across every generation. People spend years chasing achievement, convinced that fulfillment waits just past the next milestone. They picture the summit as the place where the restlessness inside them will finally go quiet. Yet many who arrive at those summits carry the same hollow feeling they had at the bottom. Because success can accomplish many things. It can open doors. It can create comfort. It can earn recognition. But it cannot answer the question that sits at the center of the human experience. Who am I when the applause ends? The world measures what you have built. Wisdom asks whether you have learned how to simply be with yourself. A thought worth carrying. The ladder matters far less than the wall it rests against. Many people never stop to question the wall. They climb faster, work longer, accumulate more, but never ask why they are climbing in the first place. So they reach heights they once dreamed of, only to find they have arrived somewhere the soul cannot be nourished. Picture a bird in a cage made of gold. The bars catch the light beautifully. Others stop to admire it, some even envy it. And yet the bird is still in a cage. Many people build lives that look stunning from the outside, while feeling disconnected within. Golden cages are still cages. This is one of the great turning points in spiritual understanding. The issue is not success. The issue is believing success can tell you who you are. Close your eyes and imagine every title removed, every accomplishment, every award, every label, every role. What remains? Who remains? The question may feel unsettling at first, but beneath that discomfort is freedom, because your worth was never something achievement created. Achievement can give your gifts a place to show up. It cannot create the gifts themselves. Real peace arrives when success becomes something you do, not something you are. When you stop measuring your value by what you produce, you begin discovering the part of yourself that never needed proving. 8. Finding the courage to let life move. Why does change feel like a betrayal, even when it is the very thing we need? Why do people cling to chapters that have clearly ended, to relationships that have shifted, to versions of themselves they have already grown past? The answer is deeply human. Attachment mistakes permanence for safety. The mind wants assurance. It wants to believe that what it loves will remain exactly as it is. But life has never offered that promise, not for youth, not for success, not for pain, not for failure. Everything moves, everything changes, everything passes from one season into the next. This is not a flaw in existence. It is the nature of existence itself. A reflection worth holding gently. Life suffers when movement is mistaken for betrayal. So many of our deepest struggles begin when we take change personally, as though life has turned against us, because a chapter is closing. But endings are often the very mechanism through which growth enters. Think of a leaf in autumn. Its suffering begins only when it forgets it belongs to the season. The tree is not abandoning it. The season is simply doing what seasons do. Life often works the same way. Many experiences that once felt devastating later revealed unexpected gifts. A closed door redirected your path. A loss deepened your capacity for compassion. A painful chapter forged strengths you did not know you had. At the time, you could only see the ending. Only later could you see the transformation. Bring to mind a difficult season from your own past, something you never wanted, something that hurt. Now look carefully. What did it teach you? What did it reveal? What emerged from you because of it? You may discover that change was carrying gifts disguised as discomfort. This is where real courage begins, not in controlling change, not in avoiding it, but in trusting that movement does not always mean loss. Sometimes it means becoming. What season are you refusing to leave? What ending are you still fighting? And could the very change you fear be leading you toward a version of yourself that where you are now can no longer reach? The moment you stop resisting the season, you begin receiving its wisdom. 9. Returning to the ordinary sacred. What if the life you have been searching for is hidden inside the life you keep overlooking? Many people spend years pursuing extraordinary experiences. They believe fulfillment lives somewhere far away beyond success, in a different city, inside a different relationship, in a future version of themselves. Their eyes stay fixed on what is missing, while life quietly unfolds at their feet. That is the final illusion, the belief that what is sacred must also be spectacular. But the deepest wisdom points in the opposite direction. Existence rarely arrives with dramatic announcements. It arrives softly in a sunrise that asks nothing of you, in a conversation that warms something cold inside, in a breath that enters your body without any effort on your part. A quiet evening passes unnoticed because the mind is somewhere else. Life whispers long before it shouts, and most people miss it not because these moments lack beauty, but because attention has been hijacked by whatever is next. Imagine spending your entire life searching for a hidden treasure. You travel endlessly. You cross oceans, climb mountains, follow distant rumors, only to discover at the very end that the treasure was buried beneath the house you spent your life trying to escape. This is how so many people relate to their own existence. They overlook today's gifts while searching for tomorrow's miracles. But here is the realization that changes everything. The ordinary is not ordinary when you are fully present. It becomes sacred. Pause for a moment. Listen to the very next sound around you. Do not name it or judge it. Simply receive it completely. Let nothing else exist for just one breath. Notice how life instantly becomes more vivid, more intimate, more real. This is not a technique. It is a homecoming, a return to the reality that has been waiting patiently for your attention all along. What ordinary miracle have you overlooked today? What beauty hides beneath your distraction? Are you searching too far away for something that has been quietly beside you this entire time? Perhaps the greatest Buddhist realization is not that you need a better life. It is that when presence returns, you finally see the beauty of the life that was always here. 10. The end of psychological waiting. What happens when you stop waiting for life to begin? Something extraordinary shifts. Not because your circumstances suddenly transform. Not because every problem resolves. Not because the future unfolds exactly as you hoped. Something deeper changes. You realize life already began. It began the moment you took your first breath. It was there when you laughed with someone you loved. It was present in that quiet moment beneath a sky you barely looked at. The tragedy is that so many people spend their whole lives in preparation mode. They treat the present as a waiting room. When I heal, then I'll be happy. When I succeed, then I'll relax. When everything lines up, then my real life will start. But that day never arrives, because the mind keeps moving the finish line. A reflection that deserves to land fully. The door to life opens only inward. The life you are seeking cannot be entered through achievement alone. It cannot be unlocked by approval. It cannot be reached by arriving somewhere else. It becomes visible the moment you stop escaping. The moment you are simply here,